Games that show a rise to success are a dime a dozen. You can find them in basically every RPG, where you start out as a wee character from a nothing background until you become what is essentially a god of that world. Or you can find games like almost every Grand Theft Auto, in which you start out as a common crook and pretty much become a mob boss by the end. Pursuing success and actually attaining it is a fantasy that many of us have, and Loud, My Road to Fame, is a great example of this type of narrative structure, but one that has a very innocent aspect to it all. Let's first back up to the type of game that Loud is. It is a musical rhythm game. Think Guitar Hero but without the guitar controller. This genre once burned bright, but then pretty much vanished after a few years to be replaced by nothing. Rhythm games do still exist, but they are not typically in the realm of the playing of music, but rather working alongside a beat. Think of games like Crypt of the Necrodancer, BPM Bullets Per Minute, and Metal Hellsinger. However, these games use rhythm as a backdrop, such as the player needing to shoot to the rhythm, rather than it being about, playing the music. That is not the case with Loud. It is a rhythm game in which you do actually play the music. In Loud, a very simple yet innocent tale is told. You follow the story of a young girl who wants to be a musician. However, unlike the earlier rhythm games of this nature, like Guitar Hero, you do not start out as an already brilliant musician who is partway through their journey and currently playing at a party or bar. That is already beyond the true beginnings of a musician's journey. Loud starts you off much earlier. This is part of the innocent charm of it all. In the beginning, you are not even playing an instrument. You're in your room, playing a broom. You're strumming along to the beat of the song, even though you utterly lack any strings. It's all just for fun, but in the narrative of the game, your parent then gets you an instrument so that you can play. The progression to being a professional musician builds up from there. You're first just jamming in your room in an attempt to become halfway competent, but as you proceed, you end up playing in public places to maybe get some pennies, and later end up in small venues until you, as you would expect, find yourself in stadiums in front of adoring fans. In essence, a game like this follows much of the typical musician biopic narrative structure, starting out with nothing and becoming someone famous as it progresses. The changes in outfit, venue, and style of show reveal the forward progression of the character's narrative into musical success. Sure, there are brief, purely narrative sequences between chapters of the game that fill in certain elements, such as getting your first guitar and such, but there is little need for them. Instead, the game is told through these background elements. The fact that you start out by playing with a broom and eventually wind up in a stadium filled with an adoring crowd is all the narrative that needs to be told. This is a valuable lesson to someone who is producing a piece of art that does not solely rely on words, such as like a film or a game, because simply showing these changes conveys the narrative without the piece of media needing to tell us a single thing. In effect, the game uses a montage style. Just show us the images as they change and we, as media literate people, will understand what is happening. This associated imagery serves as a primary means of narrative conveyance without any spoon-feeding being necessary. And that is how Loud tells us its story. The actual narrative presentation on its own is worthy of discussion and analysis, but my main point of interest is in the innocence angle. Most narratives that follow this structure, such as musician biopics, are usually about the many ups and downs of a figure until they have eventually solidified themselves as a part of popular culture. The character, who is usually based on a real person, will typically have some kind of a major breakdown, such as becoming too dependent on substances, or losing relevance in their field. And part of the narrative is seeing them break their way through that and ultimately coming out the other side as a better person. But Loud doesn't quite do that. There are a few downs here and there, but the character seemingly never has any moments of truly dropping. They don't become a menace to their bandmates or get addicted to something that negatively affects their life. Instead, the story is simply about a girl who wants to be a musician and does everything she can to achieve that goal. Instead of us being forced to see her many personal demons, she is a well-adjusted person who does well because she puts her mind to it. The narrative of Loud serves as a positive and deeply optimistic depiction of the pursuit of success. Rather than coming from a desire to win at life and prove others wrong, it is about someone who was supported early in their journey, worked hard, and ultimately found success. Is it necessarily realistic? No. Does it perpetuate a meritocratic myth? Most definitely. However, despite that, this is the kind of narrative that would likely be very positive for someone to experience, especially early in their development. We do not all succeed at what we attempt to do, and many of us are struggling artists. But having a positive mindset and seeing a piece of media that does not require someone being a terrible person to eventually become a good artist can do wonders for a person. You do not need to be damaged to be an artist. You do not need to go through cycles of abuse that need to be harnessed to make your art. You only need to make your art and do your best. Loud may be an innocent and unrealistically optimistic story of success, but we should probably have more media that dares to be optimistic from start to finish.